the fact is that UNSC doesn't really reflect the contemporary, geopolitical realities anymore.
Absolutely, Maria. India has been one of the votaries for reforming the UN Security Council for a long time. The G4, which comprises India, Japan, so Germany and Brazil, were one of the reasons why India got these countries together. Also, if you want an effective rule-based international order, you have to make sure that Security Council is reformed. I want to take the discussion forward because I believe that this is the right time. Now that the momentum has been built, 4 members of the UN Security Council are speaking out emphatically about the reform, that the reform has to take place. India must take cue. And I believe diplomacy is the art of making things possible. And I think we should take on this momentum by not only galvanizing support amongst the members of the Security Council, the permanent members, but also the General Assembly, because that's going to be the first step. About China, Anton mentioned about China. Sometimes conflicts also open up possibilities. India does have enough cards, along with some of the permanent members of the UN Security Council, to also make sure that China falls in line. It's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible, because there are enough levers that India has in terms of, the trade issues. There are enough levers that the US has. If these countries rally around and try to build pressure on China, certainly this is possible. But I think a great amount of momentum has been built at this UN General Assembly. I was there, and I can tell you, talking to a lot of diplomats there, this is the right time, because they genuinely believe that the UN Security Council and the UN is ineffective without having countries like India on board, which can play a pivotal role in global affairs, whether as a peacemaker, whether as a unifier, or creating innovative solutions to the problems that the world faces. So I think we should make sure that it should be some amount of creative diplomacy along with the persuasion. And as Ambassador Shashank was also saying, China is not against India per se. It requires some deft handling and diplomacy. And certainly the permanent members of the UN Security Council, led by the US, will have to play a major role in this reform process.
Saurabh Shukla, we are looking at what next here in terms of revising the agenda or revising reforms, need for reforms of this crucial body? Or should we say that in case if it doesn't happen, although the momentum has been built towards it, India doesn't really have much to lose?
Maria, I want to say that the momentum, now that it has been built, it's a time for India to put reform of the UN Security Council and a seat for India at the top of its diplomatic, I would say, negotiating points. The entire issue had slipped because, we were embroiled in other issues. We were prioritizing other issues. But now that this momentum has been built, I would strongly recommend that India now takes this up with key interlocutors. The backing of President Biden is again a key signal that US is going to back India. And whatever happens in November, there's a bipartisan support for the India partnership. So that is something which we should put as, I would say, a priority point from here on, because India being there at the UN Security Council, as Ambassador Shashank mentioned, it was a strategic blunder to let go of this seat that we were offered, because India could have played a pivotal role then and now, even in a bigger manner, because not only, as I said, it can create doors of innovation, it's a unifier, and it's a country which has a lot to give to the world. And its voice today is heard by the global south and the countries which matter. That's the reason why it's in India's interest to put this as a strategic priority, make sure that the momentum is not lost, because, it's in our interest. And certainly I agree that there has to be a formulation to be found where regions where there is no consensus being built, that can be dealt at a later stage, or they can go for a rotating seat. But India must insist on a permanent seat with a veto power, because we should not accept anything other than this, because this would be in India's long-term strategic interest, Maria.
Yes, absolutely. And Saurabh Shukla, one may say that it's also in the interest of the world and these powerful nations as well, because, given the role that India is increasingly playing in shaping
For the
up.
greater good.
Yes,
For the greater good, for the
Yes.
greater good of the world. Absolutely.